We crack open the cold one with the crew. RJ bringing brews, AT got the screw. Midwest vibes, growing quacks, yeah we grinding. Sales of Fox and Morse, keep your minds rewinding. Across the state, spread the word, that's how we do. From the craft to the cans, always something new. Raise your glasses, cheers to the cherry sauce. And every sip, till the stories evolve.
Hear news blowing up, hear the chatter.
Midwest Beer Show, race to the cloud. Gorgeous on the mic with the passion and blast. Dave Z's got the knowledge for an history fast.
What is up? What is up, everybody? We are back here. Another Midwest Beer Show. Been off for a few weeks, so great to be back in the house. And this one's a little bit different that we're going to do tonight. Going to have more of a reflective type show, talking about a little bit on the beer before COVID and then after COVID. And Dave has lined up some pretty good interviews for us to share some of the knowledge from a few people in the industry as well. So looking forward to kind of doing that there too. And if you are over on Instagram watching tonight, welcome for the first Instagram broadcast. I'm hoping it's coming through. I've got check marks on my box here, Dave, but
I don't have nothing on mine. I got to see if I can edit this on Instagram. What happens when you put two old people doing shit?
I hit the go live is like kind of blocked out or whatever on Instagram, but it says it's live, so I don't know. And if you're not seeing on Instagram on the first time, hopefully you're watching on the rewind here after we figure out what's happening. But what, 3 weeks, I think, since we did the last show, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. So
well, it looks like I am live on Instagram. Look at this.
Are you? Wow, look at that. Just branching all out here. Hair look good, everything. You solid.
Yeah. I mean, do the eyebrows here.
So a few weeks back, we were actually, me and Dave were kind of going back and forth with some email things. Me came up with a pretty good thing, just kind of talking about COVID, how it was before COVID, drinking beer versus how it is now 6 years later. And we thought it'd be a pretty good topic to kind of cover here on the broadcast and kind of share some thoughts on it and get some perceptions from some of the folks that have been dealing with it there in the industry. And yeah, we're going to kind of get into that there. But Dave, I'll let you kind of headline how you want us to start off and everything here and kind of getting into some of the details.
Yeah, like this is going to be a good one. I sat down this week. I talked to Matt Gasiak, who's the chief economist over at the Brewers Association, to kind of not delve into all of the numbers per se, but to kind of get his thoughts as, one of the main guys over at the Brewers Association, and then talk to a couple brewery owners. I talked to the brewery owner from Wild Edge there in Colorado, and then right down the block from me, Jeremiah from Hop Butcher. So they gave us their insights as to, how things change, what's working, things of that nature. So that was really cool to get like brewery perspectives on. Yeah, I mean, everything's changed from, 2019 to now. It disrupted how we drank beer. It reshaped how, why, and even people like drink it all. Started out temporary, like as a home consumption, but then we just became couch beer drinkers. So a lot of shit's happened in the last 6 years. Before 2020, there were a lot more festivals. People went to beer festivals. Now there's not as many, and I don't know what the attendance is like. I know for the bigger ones, like your Great American Beer Festivals, your World Beer Cup, your FOBABs, I'm sure those aren't going anywhere. But like here, I see less and less of like the neighborhood festival. So, we don't really have those numbers, but, people aren't going out for $9 pints anymore. People are just staying home and grabbing that 6-pack or buying a stovepipe can of Voodoo Ranger, if you will, and just having one $3 beer at 9%. So we're going to get into a lot of that. Sorry about that. Pardon me. But yeah, it's going to be a good episode. I think you're going to enjoy it.
All right. Excellent. And is that what your price are going for right there? Like $9 about now or so? Just curious.
Yeah, probably like $8 to $9, depending on where you go and, the type of beer. You're getting some big hazy thing. I mean, I was just at Hot Butcher Sunday, but it was a deal where you got a pint and a burger for $25, but then like the proceeds went to Meals on Wheels. So, I'm sure it was inflated a little bit because it's money going to a charity. So you didn't mind doing that. Right. But yeah, I'm sure they're, $7 to $9. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, just curious with the rate. I mean, being where we're at, we still have some that are below that number for our target, but depending on what restaurant you may go to, you're definitely can get into the $8 or $9 and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I was just at one of your favorite spots, the Bad Apple, 2 nights ago for our 10-year anniversary, and had to have a pint there. I think that was $7 or $8.
So you and Ruby met at the Bad Apple then?
Our first date. Yeah, our first date was at the Bad Apple. We were online dating, so we were scrolling through and we started talking, and like a couple days later, she was like, because I did not live in the area at the time, but she did. She was like, there's this bar that's really good, has this cider I like. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then at the time, the area. At the time, it was Half Acre. And I'm like, oh, well, shit, now I know where it is. It's right across the street from Half Acre. But so we met there, and here we are 10 years later.
Wow. Excellent. And for those of you that don't know Chicago, if you get to Chicago, I can't say enough good things about the Bad Apple. One of the best burgers I've had from anywhere. Definitely check that out if you get a chance. And of course, right across from Hot Butcher, and we'll have Jeremiah, as Dave mentioned earlier, on here for a bit for an interview. Shout out to you, Waddy Clark. Hope Dave's been well. Definitely stay hydrated. Got to stay hydrated. Enjoy the stream, and hope you consider being here more often. We'll appreciate that. Well, thank you, and great to have you in on this one. So before we get into some of that, we got to talk about the beers we're actually having, right? So I'm going to crack open one here. I still got one in North High Road Red Ale from out of Columbus, Ohio. North High does some pretty good stuff. This one comes in 5.2% ABV. And as I've said many a time, you can't get enough of a good red ale.
No.
So I'm all about more red ales, more black IPAs, more of the nondescript stuff we're always getting thrown in front of us, right? Let's get some of the other styles out there. But this one is a nice, decent one. A lot of times when we talk about red ale, especially here in the Central Valley, we're talking about Great Lakes and our Conway, but North High has done a great job with the beer here. Nice pour as well. Nice color there. Yeah, nice aromas. I don't know if I put that video up yet on this one. I may have not yet, but if I haven't, the review will be up soon.
Okay.
I got like a backlog of stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
A lot of this stuff.
I'm looking at my folder. I'm like, I got to get this stuff out.
Finally having some time back, I can actually get more into the beer type stuff. So thank you for everybody that's tuned in and has been hanging on. A lot of good stuff coming your way. But on your end, what did you crack open?
Well, I'm doing my next podcast episode. It'll come out tomorrow night. I talked to the owner of Best Day Brewing. It's a non-alcoholic brewery. They're nationwide. Like here, you can get them at Target, all over. They sent over a mix pack, and this is their Pilsner. It's called Wild American. Really good, like a really good beer. I wouldn't call it an NA beer. It's just a good beer. And what I like about this, with some of the NAs that are out there, you just throw a shit ton of hops in front of it, and it's going to mask everything. You can't do that with a Pilsner. Pilsner is there. It has to be good. This is really good. I'm digging this one a lot. So I figured we're going to be here a while. Let me start with an NA.
Well played, my friend. Well played. So, you gathered some data talking about some of the different things. One of your first parts was talking about, we kind of hit into some of the drinking habits, but people drinking less overall. Percentage of Americans who drink dropped to 54% in 2024, which was an historic low. The health awareness, changing of social norms, pandemic, Eric, reflection, all playing a role. Younger consumers, especially Gen Z, leading a shift toward moderation or abstinence. So a lot of different things actually taking place there. you know that it's not just a beer issue, but it's basically affecting the entire alcohol industry, which we've seen with some of the spirits being down, as well as some of the wineries and things like that. So I think it's definitely on point from what you kind of noted there.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily alcohol too. Like, I don't think people are going to restaurants as much or going to concerts or whatever. The price of everything is going up. The disposable income that we all have seems to be going down. So
Right.
A lot of this discretionary income that people had to go out to bars, to breweries, to dinner, to concerts, to whatever, people are doing that less and less. And then just, they're grabbing that 4-pack and watching something on Netflix.
Yeah. I mean, might be even more people now with the cost of gas the way it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to drive out it, which you shouldn't be drinking and driving. So hopefully that doesn't come into play. But if you're taking an Uber, that rate may go up some. So to offset some of that stuff. But what is your aspect on things now? Do you find yourself doing less? Like, for me, I don't find myself looking to go out to the festivals as much as what I used to, but it's more, I don't know if it's more being just tied down into other things or kind of not wanting to deal with it, or maybe getting old. I don't know, but I don't feel that hunger as much as what I used to feel back a few years ago.
Exactly. And I'm the same way. And part of it, I work at O'Hare. I deal with the shit ton of people every day. So sometimes on my days off, I don't want to be surrounded by people anymore. Some of that's probably just us getting older. So I'm still going to the bigger festivals. Your Beer Under Glass that's coming up actually not next Friday, and then your FOBABs, things like that. I'll still attend, but your neighborhood festivals, I'm not going to those.
Yeah, that kind of all comes into play there.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I do go to a festival, I still have a good time. It's just the sense of the urgency is kind of like, do I really want to get out there and do that and be out that long? And, so maybe it is the fact of getting older and stuff as well. But, there's still some ones you look forward to. I was kind of disappointed because the last few weeks I had to travel a lot, so I didn't get a chance to go to CBC a couple weeks ago. That's more of a conference, but it's a great time to catch up with a lot of the breweries. And of course, they have the World Beer Cup, which we haven't had a show since then, but a lot of good winners in that. Not just here, but even overseas. There were a lot of international winners that took place out there too. Always a great time if that ever comes to your city, even if you're not into beer, and you can get like a ticket just to go and participate like at one of the night events or happy hours is well worth it. And if you're looking to find out about the beer industry, everybody is just pretty much at disposal to share information and have some great conversations. So definitely we're talking about an upcoming, actually, I think I sent you a thing. They're doing the Craft Brewers Conference up there in Chicago coming up. So with the Craft Beer Professionals, you should have got that. I thought I sent you the email or a message about it, but that'll be, I think, in May or June. So they'll be coming to Chicago. That's the one I sent you with Marty. That Marty's going to be speaking at. Yeah. So that's going to be an event there. Maybe I can try and look to come up to Chicago for something like that as well. It's going to be like a 2 or 3 day event. So always a good thing taking place with Craft Beer Professionals.
Not at Spirits no longer. The airline tickets will be going up. So you might want to grab your ticket now.
Yeah. Well, I was never one that flew Spirit anyway. I felt like if it was too cheap, I just couldn't trust it for whatever reason. Although they got a great flying record, although there have been people that have been left, I've heard in some spots. But, if you're not there to check in. Speaking of the airline thing, I don't know if you saw the story. I was going to shoot you a message on it the other day. Some lady at the ticket counter at one of the airlines, she came in with her jug of tequila. And they're like, you can't take that on a plane with you. At TSA, she's like basically chugs like half the bottle.
My girl, right there. Yeah.
So you would have chugged tequila, get on a plane, bounce around a little bit. I mean, they do give you that bag, but you're going to need more than one, possibly. And then if you're too drunk, they won't let you on the plane anyway.
Yeah, we won't even let you on. Sorry.
Yeah.
And those are always fun conversations to have. Yeah. Sorry, you can't go.
But TSA stopped. She sat there at the front of the line and was basically chugging the tequila that she could drink before she threw the bottle away. So, God bless her. Oh, she was in the middle seat, that's for sure. But yeah, so the rise of NA beer is another point you also hit on here as well. With some of the stuff that we've seen the numbers, we know that people are drinking differently. NA jumped 23% in 2024 and 175 since 2019. So on the rise, one of the fastest growing segments, if not the fastest growing in craft beer, has been the NA area. And that's going to take a bite out of stuff. And that's something a little different. You didn't see as much of it before 2020, around that time, right? There was some out there, but you definitely seen a bigger influx in the last 6 years of it.
Especially with like Athletic was the first big national brand that really started bringing that segment in, and people were trying that. And now, like I said, I'm having Best Day on this week. We both talk about Go Brewing a lot. Now there's other Revolution just put out a non-alcoholic version of their Anti-Hero a couple weeks ago, and that's really good.
Yeah, yeah, the Anti-Zero. I caught your podcast on that one there too. So
So it's definitely a growing market. I mean, it's not huge. If you look at the overall percentage that they have in the craft beer, it's not huge yet, but it is growing. So, I mean, people have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, definitely. And shout out to JT in the house. What is going on, JT? Great to see you, my friend. And do we want to get into one of the interviews here that you actually did?
Why don't we talk? Pull up Matt from the Brewers Association to get
Matt? Okay.
Yeah, an overall, take on what's going on. It is video, so I recorded the video when I talked to him the other day.
All right. You want to tee up about Matt or anything there?
He's the chief economist from the Brewers Association. Really good guy, Denver-based, obviously, because he's with the BA, so he's out of Denver. Just a good guy, knows his stuff. Talking to him, it's not a numbers geek. He explains it and talks to, like you could understand what he's talking about. He's not giving you crazy algorithms, things like that. And he's a beer fan. He's a beer person. So really good guy. I've talked to him a couple times, so I think you're going to enjoy hearing what Matt has to say. Matt Gasiak from the Brewers Association.
All right. Excellent. Let's go ahead and I'll get that teed up here.
All right, welcome back. I'm happy to talk again to Matt Gasiak over from the Brewers Association. We've got a lot to dive into here, but Matt, thanks so much for coming back on to talk.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Dave. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah. All right, well, let's start now with like the high level. Did COVID change beer, or did it just speed up trends that were already happening?
Yeah, it's a big question, and one that is I'm happy you're asking, because I think a lot of times the narrative is just COVID came and it changed everything, and that's kind of how it went. But to your point, we were already starting to see some changes prior to the pandemic hitting. Craft beer was still growing, but slower. At the 2018, 2019, and the start of 2020 was, still growth, but slower growth than what had been experienced in the mid 2010s. Consumers were certainly changing the way that people interact with technology, the way they get out and socialize, the more opportunities for people to spend time alone. That could be through your Instacart and grocery delivery and food delivery. There's just more ways that consumers had options not to get out and about. And so we were starting to see some of those changes ahead of time. And then, some of the health and wellness trends that really kind of got a kick in the pants during the pandemic were, already like started as little fires already. So, long way of saying, I do think that COVID was a catalyst for a lot of these changes, but it's not like if COVID had never happened, we wouldn't have eventually gotten to where we are today.
since then, a lot of us have become fridge beer people. How much of that shift from your seat at the Brewers Association has become permanent?
Permanence is an interesting topic to cover, right? Because there is a cyclicality in beverage alcohol. There has been, as long as sort of records have been kept here. And so we do see ebbs and flows in terms of consumer demand, how it meets the cultural moment. But so I would say that almost nothing about today is guaranteed permanent. But I do think there are some major structural shifts in the way that consumers are interacting with each other again, and kind of going out, that unless there's a concerted effort to change that, I could see us kind of keep moving in that direction. At the same time, we can see from expenditure data that is available from the federal government that there has continued to be more of a shift towards spending on services rather than goods. So, part of that is just that services are getting more expensive. And so, that's part of the story. But, when a lot of people are drinking, out of their fridge because the cost per unit is quite a bit cheaper than when you're out at a brewery or a bar or restaurant. But at the same time, humans are a social species. And so, if there is the right combination of quality product, a great experience, somewhere that people feel comfortable, they are still going out and spending some money. And so I think that's kind of the big challenge for breweries, especially the breweries that do most of their volume over their own bars. That's the challenge for them, is to figure out how to get folks in the door, make them feel welcome, comfortable, and, have the diversity of products and potentially the programming and environment that makes them want to stick around for a second or third beer.
That is pretty interesting there, because that is the financial component is something that gets overlooked too, for what people can or are able to actually spend going out. So glad he kind of hit on that point there as well.
Yeah. Are breweries adjusting fast enough to this reality, or do you see some still waiting to go back in time to 2019 or the mid 2010s when everything was booming?
Yeah, it's a interesting question, and one that I might have answered different if we had been speaking 2 weeks ago. We're recording this the week after the Craft Brewers Conference out in Philadelphia, and I got to say, everyone says the word vibes these days. I'm trying to hold back on my vibe and the number of times I say vibe, but now I've just done it 4 times. Anyway, the overall sentiment of that conference was one where it felt much less backwards looking and saying, woe is me back in the good old days, et cetera, and a lot more of like, okay, this is what we're in, and this is what we're up against at this point. And so a lot of the same kind of peer-to-peer collaboration, a lot of collaboration between brewers and their suppliers. Everyone's kind of looking forward now and saying, with this new set of circumstances, this is what we need to do to be successful. And saw that with a lot of the sessions that happened at CBC, as well as kind of those casual conversations. So, my perspective at this moment in time is that brewers really are looking forward, and there are fewer around now that are just kind of waiting for those days to come back.
One thing that I've noticed, and in the last couple of weeks, we've seen some mergers. Are we going to be entering another era where you have this consolidation of breweries and you're only going to have the strongest brands, or do you still see it being this hyper local thing that we've had for the last 5 years?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Actually, I think it's important to remember that the vast majority of breweries in the U.S. are the on-site models. They're your tap rooms and your brew pubs, where if there is a distribution footprint, it's pretty darn minimal. And what we saw in 2025 data was that on-site model actually outperformed the distribution model. On the whole, taprooms and brew pubs performed better than breweries that focus mostly on distribution, just in terms of volume change year over year. And so I think, in that sense, there will continue to be more of that on-site model, and those breweries are less likely to get caught up in mergers and acquisitions. Not that it never happens, but are less likely, because a lot of what we see in that M&A activity or partnership activity right now over the past few years really is really trying to get efficiencies of scale for distribution breweries. And so that's why a lot of times they'll consolidate production of, say, 5 different brands in one brew house. That way you have kind of shared the fixed costs, and the variable costs of kind of per unit manufacturing is lower. And so you get those benefits. You also get the co-benefits of maybe having a shared marketing team or shared finance team, shared HR teams. These aren't, you don't necessarily need one or more of folks in each of those departments at 5 different breweries. You could kind of share some of those costs under one roof. It also helps with more retailer relationships, more distributor relationships. So, long way of saying that I wouldn't be surprised in the least if we continue to see some of those kind of strategic consolidation moments happening within, especially distributing craft breweries. But I would be more surprised if we see as much traction with that happening at the local brewery. So, for most of your listeners, the brewery that they think of just down the street that largely serves their community, I would imagine that model's not gonna change too much.
Was this actually before or after? Because we haven't talked about it since our last show, because it just happened in between the Firestone and DeVal taking over Stone.
No, this was after. So I talked to him Wednesday, so just a couple days ago. So this was after.
Okay.
So it was after that. It's like, Firestone, they took over Trumer Pills as well just a month ago, and then with all these other companies, what's the one who took over Brewdog? I forget what, I can't think of him now, but
Tilray,
yeah. So I wanted to get like his perspective, like, we're seeing some of these now. Is this going to be something that's going to happen? Or I wanted to get his thoughts on that.
All right. Excellent. And shout out to you. Keep it funky. Thanks for jumping in. And you got a Central Waters barrel aged beer. You're about to enjoy that, my friend, for sure. They do some great stuff. Yeah.
Talking to, my co-host in this, Rajay, we've talked a lot about experience, and people aren't just going to, get the new hazy IPA that's out. People want experience more than ever. How does the Brewers Association, or how do you help breweries to deliver this? Are there keys that you give them, tips to how do you get people to just want to go out, whether it's having a beer or not, just, to visit your place?
Yeah, totally. So, one of our biggest educational sessions of the year is at the Craft Brewers Conference that just happened. A lot of sessions were focused specifically on tap rooms and brew pubs, and some of that is on the production side, some of that's on the quality side, but a lot of that's on the hospitality side as well. So trying to use some anecdotes and case studies from breweries that are doing it really well, folks that have been doing it for a long time, to help kind of share that knowledge. Something that we have coming down the pike at the Brewers Association that I'm really excited about in the next couple months are communities, where it's going to be kind of focused smaller groups of where whether the communities are built around job function or a particular type of brewery, it'll be kind of the opportunity for folks in smaller and larger breweries, but to find their peers across the country in a way that's not always easy to do. So they could, kind of work together and share stories, share wins, share failures, so that they could all kind of work together. I'm personally really excited about that, because this has historically been such a collaborative industry that to now use the technological tools that we have available to make that accessible to more people is something I think is really exciting, and something that I think is going to help drive our whole industry forward as well.
What do you see the smarter breweries doing that are getting people to come back?
Yeah, so I think the smartest breweries are the ones that intimately know their consumer base and who they're trying to reach, and not just who they're trying to reach, but what those people care about. And so, like, what are their interests? What are their hobbies? Who do they go out with? What days and times are they going out? What do they need to feel like this space and this experience was tailored for them? And so it's not a one size fits all, right? Because you could be a brewery in a college town that has a very different mandate than a brewery that lives in a retirement town. So there's not going to be one silver bullet or one size fits all, but understanding who they're trying to get through the doors and really honing that message is, I think, is kind of the through line between all the breweries that are able to find success in today's environment.
When you were mentioning that, I was just thinking, like, yeah, I don't think having like a trivia night at the college town is going to go over as well as it would in the retirement village.
Yeah, I know. Could be different, but who knows? It's really especially this is the beauty of the taproom and brew pub model, is like the beer, from the beer portfolio to the decorations on the wall to the way the staff is trained, all of that can really be hyper focused on the people that they want to come in the doors. And who knows, maybe there's a retirement community that loves trivia night. And you could do, I look to, this isn't necessarily the retirement community, but there's a brewery right near me out in Denver that does Star Wars trivia, because they know that they have enough Star Wars fanatics that could get, they bring in, and that's who they want in. And, there's pinball machines and everything as well. They have kind of the whole thing set up for the people that they want to draw through those doors.
Yeah. Hey, whatever works at this point, whatever's going to get that person in the door to order their second pint or whatever. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, whatever works.
And I think to just building off of that a little bit is I see that more and more of breweries that are, a lot of brewers start as home brewers where they're making beer that's hopefully that I expect is delicious, but is really focused on what they want to drink and what, them and their family and friends want to drink. And now I think we're kind of past that era where that translates into the product mix for when they open a commercial brewery. Now it's a lot more, hey, what's selling? What are people clamoring for? Even if it's not a beer that I particularly love, if other people love it, I'm gonna meet that need. And I heard that specifically from a brewery I was chatting with out in Philadelphia, that they said, evidently this brewer, he was like, the world doesn't need another IPA. He put out an IPA begrudgingly. It's now their best-selling flagship, and he doesn't drink it that much, but everyone else does. So he's kind of meeting those consumers where they're at.
Yeah, especially something that's going to keep the lights on, keep churning it out.
For sure.
How is the Brewers Association working with breweries to look to increase opportunities with underdeserved markets like the African American and Latino drinkers that are out there?
Yeah, that's one that we don't have any like specific programming, but I think that falls into that bigger umbrella of understanding your target audience, and realizing, while out at CBC, I gave a presentation actually with Lawson's Finest Liquids out of Vermont, if you know them, but talking about differentiation in a crowded market, and that was one of the big messages. It was like, look, there are, there's a lot of discussion about saturation in craft beer. Is like, are we at that saturation point? And if you look at the number of non-traditional craft drinkers out there, it's hard to imagine that the industry has hit full saturation, right? It hasn't maybe made those inroads with some of those less served craft communities, but you got to imagine whoever is able to kind of make that connection and say, hey, this product, this space is for you, not just I could say this as a bearded white man, but like not just the bearded white men, that opens up more doors. That opens up more doors for the industry. And I think if we're looking at the size of the craft beer pie as, the existing craft beer drinkers, I think that's kind of short-sighted. And what we should be doing is saying, hey, who else can we be inviting to this party, and who else can we, really connect with, and have all the great benefits, get a high quality product, build community, all those things that craft beer does. Let's expand that pie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's markets that are out there that aren't being tapped into. Pardon the pun, but really aren't being tapped into that. I think all of us feel like this is money that breweries are leaving on the table. Let's like you mentioned, broaden our horizons and get everybody into this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love seeing when I saw it in Philadelphia, but I love it when there are brewery owners and brewers who are themselves from communities outside of kind of the traditional craft beer demographics. And I think that's the more that the industry can support those entrepreneurs as well is a great way to keep the conversation going with a wider communities.
One thing that I notice in my little bubble, I'm not part of the industry. I just, have a podcast and media thing. So I'm not affiliated with any brewery, but you always see this pop up on social media every couple months about kids in breweries, and some people love them, some people hate them. But what I noticed, we're recording this on Tuesday, the 28th. Just 2 days ago, I was over at Hop Butcher. They had an event for Meals on Wheels, and it was $20, $25. You get a pint of Hop Butcher beer. They had this local food, not a food truck, but a burger guy, biker dude, burgers that are phenomenal smash burgers. Cool. And then the money went to Meals on Wheels. So it was kind of like a win-win. You get a great beer, great burger, money goes to a good charity. Yeah. And what I noticed at this event, they had a lot more kids in there. It wasn't offensive to me. It was good. They even had coloring books for the kids. And on a normal day when I go into Hop Butcher, you don't see that. I mean, I thought that was really cool. I know there's no official stance on kids in breweries, but, is that another way we could get more people in where it's more family focused?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one that I think in 2025 there was an article in maybe the New York Times. This was a topic that got some pretty high level media on it, and I think when again I'm going to be a broken record here, but like it comes back to understanding who you want to get in, right? Like I'm personally at the point in my life where a lot of times I'm toting around two little kids, and so if there is a coloring book and all that, great, but I also understand folks saying we want to be the destination where adults can have some quiet time away from kids. And we're seeing even in some breweries it's not necessarily as clearly delineated as the former like smoking section, not smoking section, but more so where it's like, hey, there's more family friendly stuff and seating and kind of that space over here. And then if you want to, just sit at the bar and be a little bit removed from that, that's available as well. So, a reality is that a lot of the craft beer boom was driven by millennials. That cohort is now the cohort with young kids. And so a lot of breweries that want to kind of keep those same customers coming back again and again are finding it valuable to accommodate families as well.
Like, what have you noticed? Like, I mean, you work for the Brewers Association, so you know a lot about the GABF, but how have festivals, do you see them coming back? Because, we had a couple year run where, there was attendance things, people weren't going out. Are festivals, do you think, ever going to get back to that pre-2020 level?
Yeah, it's a question that I don't have great data on of kind of national festivals, how those are continuing to either grow, shrink, or remain the same. I can speak to the Great American Beer Fest that we have evolved the model significantly. This year we're actually doing our it's not the first time it's ever outside, but it's the first time since the 80s that the Great American Beer Festival has been outside. And, trying a different model. It's smaller in scale, going to be much more focused on competition winning beers and going to be outside. It lends itself to more music focused. So, I think just as a microcosm of the larger festival ecosystem, we are thinking about beer festivals differently. And I have to imagine many festival organizers are as well. While I was in Philly, I heard from some folks that put on a specifically German style beer festival out in Pennsylvania. And they said that they've had great attendance year over year over year, and it keeps growing. And so, again, sample size of one, but I think it tracks with what we're seeing in consumer data, that to have kind of a more focused festival and a more focused event, you'll be able to draw in specific people and like bunch of folks who just want to go and drink IPAs all day aren't going to come to that German style festival. But I think it lets them know sort of what to expect and can kind of drum up some support around that particular focus area. So I'm hoping, I'm certainly hoping, and our events team and the whole BA is hoping that the newly formatted Great American Beer Festival will be really successful for the folks that it sounds exciting to. And so yeah, but we'll check back in after mid-October, and I'll let you know how it went.
Sounds good, Matt. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out this afternoon. It's always fun to talk to you. Take care of yourself. And yeah, we'll talk in October and see how things went.
It sounds great. Thanks so much for the time, Dave.
All right, we'll see you. Hello there. Rod? Rod, you out there? Well, thanks to Matt for joining. That's always a good time talking to Matt. I don't know if you guys can see me, but it looks like my microphone's on. Matt had a lot of good things to talk about. So really cool, good guy behind the numbers. A lot of things that, I thought were interesting that, we need to, or beer, not we, but beer needs to tap into every market that's out there, because if not, the beer industry's leaving money on the table, and no one could afford to do that in 2026. You're muted.
All right, you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, something happened to my system, crashed there. My net went down for a second. Did Matt's interview finish, or did he go?
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, when that circle spun, and then it was like, boop, I was out. So, technology, man, technology. Yeah. What can I do? But great interview there with Matt. Shout out to Vanessa, who's also here now.
Hey, Vanessa.
Hit on a lot of key stuff there, but again, one, knowing your target, knowing your audience, out of position to meet your people where they are, right? So that's kind of a good part of what he was talking about there. You have to really know that nowadays. The children in the brewery type thing, that was pretty interesting there too. Obviously, if you know your fan base can do well with the children in brewery in that area, that people are welcome. I know some breweries, they've cut off times for bringing children.
And I could see that too. I mean, that makes sense. You don't want kids in breweries at 11 at night. You know, if you have it for like dinner hour. And I think a lot of that is too, like, do places serve food? You know, a place that's a tap room, but they also have a full menu. You're probably going to see more kids because people are bringing their family and going out to dinner.
Yeah.
You know, a place like that, I mean, I've never had a problem with it, but if it's just a no food, tap room, then, maybe I could see somebody, having offense to it. It doesn't bother me as long as the kids are behaved.
Yeah.
Well, or dogs or whatever. Or humans. Or adults. Adults should behave too.
Well, that gets when the parent is actually the parent, right? Make sure you don't have your kids out there tormenting or running around or affecting anybody else for sure. So,
yeah, you don't want babies' kids running around.
Yeah. Vanessa said most places that have bars, the kids can't be sitting in a particular area. Yeah, like if you have the bar there, right? So the food at the brewery, you can kind of do that with like a meal, but like I said, most of the times kids don't bother me. It's more if a parent isn't a parent watching their kid and the kid starts running around doing stuff or bumping into servers or just like getting in a place they shouldn't be getting into, or like some breweries that they damage equipment at some spots. They're out there throwing stuff out there and getting cornhole bags stuck on the roof because they're throwing them up in the air doing stuff. So you just got to make sure you're watching them if you bring them. They're your responsibility. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Vanessa says she saw your ad about the titanium work. Nice job. She buys their products. So it must have been an ad. They must have ran on your channel.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I don't have any ads, but
the titanium
they better be giving me some money.
Well, you at least a walk. They do it on everybody's channels now. It's just if you're monetized, you get a cut, right? So
where's my titanium walk?
If you're not monetized, you're just working for the man at that point. So but no, it was great. It was great for Matt to spend some time and share some ideas and thoughts on place there. So I don't know, my internet's being jumpy tonight for some reason.
Yeah, like your picture's frozen here.
Walk and walk. I guess you in it. Kind of bippity boppity or something right now. Yeah. Certainly looks like you're talking about the walk.
Oh no, that's not me.
What is this walk talk?
That's my evil twin. That's not me.
Oh, let me see here. Now I got Dave spinning. I don't know what the hell is going on right now. It's going to be one of those nights here with the internet fighting back and forth. All right. Hope they didn't use AI with you there.
I have not done anything with a walk. I'm going to have to look into this.
The Clone Wars may be coming there. So I'm going to crack open another beer here. So I've got, sticking in the Midwest, from Drekker. It is the Fluff Stuff. And I'm going to actually knock that out. Drekker out of South Dakota. Review is coming up on this one on the channel as it has been recorded and it's ready to be shared. But this is their blueberry marshmallow sour.
I had to do an old favorite from Three Floyds. I had to crack open a Zombie Dust while we were on video. Can't go wrong with Zombie Dust.
No. And then do we want to share the one with Jeremiah or Wild Edge?
We'll go Wild Edge, and then we'll close it off with Jeremiah at Hop Butcher.
All right. You want to share any details on this one here?
Yeah, it's a Colorado brewery out of a town called Cortez, Colorado. It sounds like they're in like the Four Corners area of the state. And it's just an interesting talk, a smaller brewery, not a lot of distributing. And, he'll mention, that and the changes. But, he was talking about just being community focused, how things have changed wearing masks to post wearing masks. So interesting talk. First time, talking to this gentleman, and I thought he was really cool.
All right. Excellent. So we'll go ahead and get Wild Edge on here and check out some of the thoughts as well.
Was all packed tap rooms, releases flying off the shelves. And then all of a sudden it's growlers. It's online to go orders with. All right. Welcome back. I'm happy to talk again to Matt Gasiak over from the Brewers Association.
Wait a second. That's not the right one. We want this one.
Everything and anything they could do to pay the rent. Some breweries didn't just survive. They came out sharper, leaner, even a little smarter about their place in the landscape. It's no longer chasing the hot trend. It's honing your identity. And that's where the next guest comes in. Tucker Robinson from Wild Edge Brewing Collective in Cortez, Colorado, is building something that feels intentional, like there's a point of view behind the beer, not just a race to keep up. And I want to get into how that's evolved, especially in coming out of the COVID era where everything changed from how people drink to how breweries operate. Tucker, thank you so much for taking time out to talk today.
Hey, Dave, I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, before we get started, how does one go from being an archaeologist to a brewery owner?
Yeah, it's kind of a non-traditional career trajectory there. So my college degree is in archaeology. I went to school in Colorado Springs and then moved over to the Four Corners region pretty much right out of college, and was working as a contract archaeologist for a decade in the region, mostly in Utah and Southwest Colorado. I was always a beer drinker, and then in 2010, my now wife and I bought a house here just north of Cortez, and I started dabbling in home brewing as something to do, and I really fell in love with the art and science behind it and the creativity that can go into it. And I fell down the rabbit hole hard. I was working 4-day weeks when I was doing archaeology, so I was brewing almost every Friday. And as a thought experiment in 2014, I wrote out a brewery plan, for something that I'd like to see in our small town here in Southwest Colorado. And then in 2016, there was some change up at the company that I was working at, and it kind of seemed like if I was going to do it, that was my chance. And so luckily I was able to talk my wife to be on board with this major life decision, which is pretty unique considering she's not a beer drinker. Yeah. And one of my now business partners, he was one of my homebrew buddies. And so I took the leap, and I went and did an internship at a friend's brewery, Swiftwater Brewing in Rochester, New York, which is my hometown. And he was real gracious with his time and information, and we leapt right in, and we've kind of been figuring it out ever since.
And your co-owner, Doug, is an orthopedic surgeon. Like, I need some elbow work done real soon. Can we work out a deal with maybe a growler or a case, or do I got to talk to Workman's Comp about that?
Yeah, unfortunately for you, Doug is now very happily retired.
All right.
And but be glad to sit down and have a beer and talk all about it with you, I'm sure.
Well, you have collective in your name. What does that mean in practice? Is it like your philosophy, the structure of the brewery, or both?
Yeah, we get asked that a lot. So a lot of people think a collective is the same thing as a co-op, which is not. A co-op is a legal definition for structure of a company. Collective is a group of people that come around a common cause or idea. And when I was first pitching the idea of Wild Edge to my now business partners, we kind of all had the desire to create something in Cortez where we were going to be able to build community around great beer. And so that was our cause. That was our mission statement. And as we were trying to decide a name for what we were going to call our future brewery, we felt that the word collective kind of encapsulated that initiative on our part a lot better than the word company does. And so, and it's also a little unique, and it's a conversation starter that allows me and my bartenders and my business partners to be able to discuss our business practices and our ethos and how we see our standing in our community. It's a nice segue into being able to bring people a little bit more into what we're doing and why we're here.
Well, you opened up at the height of the hazy craze, the haze craze, if you will. But looking at your tap list, Wild Edge has something, it seems like, for everyone. As the brewer, has that always been your mindset, or has that changed, throughout time?
From day one, we wanted to appeal to as many people as possible. Cortez, the town that we're in, has a population of 8,000 people, and our county only has roughly 30,000 people in it. So we were really conscious about the fact that in order for us to survive as a business, we were going to have to appeal to as many people as possible, as many palates as possible, as many different preferences as possible. So when we opened, that was always something that we have tried to do, is have a very diverse tap list where we can find something for anybody, even if they're not a craft beer drinker. We can find something on our tap list for them that is going to excite them, maybe challenge them a little bit, but it's going to be a well-crafted, full flavor beverage, no matter what it is. And that's also, we carry hard cider from a local cidery. We carry wine. We have a variety of non-alcoholic drinks. We're trying to get as many people to be able to have a good time as they come and get them through our door as possible.
Any recipes from your home brewing days make the leap with you to your professional brewing?
Well, before we went on air, I had mentioned that I was packaging our porter, and that is a unadulterated homebrew day recipe that we've had on tap every since opening day. We've had that. I have a saison recipe that I still brew from homebrew days. But one of the things I really like about brewing is you learn as you go, and my tastes change, other people's tastes change. I get turned on to new ingredients, new processes. And so, one of the great things and one of the luxuries I have is being such a small brewery is I have the flexibility to change things. I don't have a distributor wanting the exact same product every week, year after year after year. I am able to play around with stuff. And, when I change things on old favorites that we have here, sometimes my customers pick it up and they give me a little crap for it. But, I explain my reasoning for why we did what I did, and we move forward. But no, I love always experimenting. But yeah, that porter is the same one I was brewing 15 years ago, home brewing for sure.
What styles are hitting for you right now?
I'm having a really good time right now exploring the world of lower ABV beers. You look at the trends across the country, and people are drinking less. People are a little more conscious about the alcohol that they are drinking. I know as I've gotten older, I am drawn towards having, I guess my theory of the case has always been, I like drinking beers, plural, not beer. Yeah. And so I've always kind of leaned a little bit more towards the lower ABV stuff. But recently I've been playing around with, sub 5% beers. We did our anniversary IPA here. We just released 2 weeks ago for our 9th anniversary. That's a 5%. Heavily hopped IPA. I've got 2 other beers, one that's kind of a take on an English bitter, and the other one, which is a weird, fun experiment using Kveik yeast to make, both of those are 5.5%. And then yesterday, for the first time, I'm messing around with doing a real low ABV kind of German Pilsner inspired beer that's probably going to be about 3.5%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, that's been kind of where my creative muscle's been going right now. Like I said, I mean, people are becoming way more conscious about how much alcohol they're consuming. So my hope is that if I'm able to give some offerings where people aren't going to walk in and be intimidated by the amount of alcohol that's in all my beers, hopefully we can get them to come in for a pint a little more frequently than they otherwise might.
Or, if it's a 3.5%, maybe two.
Two, maybe three, and then
Yeah.
go home with a 4-pack,
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, it's there's I just listening to our customers and looking at national trends. I mean, this kind of seems like a fun avenue to explore here for a little while and see where it leads us, both as a business and personally, from a creative standpoint.
Well, when I was going through your tap list, I need to hear more about this. What is it? Apricity?
Apricity.
That one sounds amazing.
Yeah, so Apricity is not a specific beer. It's more of a brand, and it's a beer that we release leading into the holidays every year. It tends to be a little higher on the ABV. It tends to be dark. We've done, bourbon barrel aged stouts. Last year I did a Belgian quad. And then this year we did an imperial porter where I took a lot of inspiration from the culinary world, specifically from mole. And we added cocoa nibs and vanilla bean and cinnamon, and then just a little bit of New Mexico dried red chili that just kind of hits you a little bit on the back end and adds a nice little savory character to it. But yeah, it's rich, it's complex. It's one of those beers that you can sit there, and as it opens up and warms up, you get more and more of the flavor out of it. But that one it's been selling really well. Our dark beer likers have been really digging it, and it's kind of a fun thing to be able to release something like that every year. That's going to be a little different, but folks are going to know that we're no longer in the winter. We still got a little bit left over, but it's a good winter warmer for us.
Yeah, it's Colorado. I'm sure you're like Chicago, where it's still, you never know what you're getting. It could be freezing cold one day or whatever.
We just got a freeze warning for tonight. So
what kind of experience are you and the team trying to create for people that are walking into Wild Edge?
So from the get-go, we're a very community-driven brewery. We wanted our space to be open and accessible to every walk of life. And we really take a lot of inspiration from kind of the concept of a third space. Everybody has their first space, their home. They have their second space, which is their work. And their third space is neither of those, but it's still, it's a place that you can go and enjoy community at. And so, we try to provide a nice, open and welcoming space where, like I said earlier, you can come in, you can get a beer, you can get a wine, you can get a cider, you can get an NA, you can get, we have anything that you want, as well as some food. We're doing trivia every other week. We're doing live music at least 2, if not 3 or 4 times a month. So, I like to think of it as, our neighborhood's second living room. And anytime you walk in, even if you come in by yourself, if you're a local, chances are you're going to know somebody and you're going to be able to sit there and strike up a conversation. And if not with another patron, with one of the bartenders or our cook, you're going to be able to have a good conversation with them. And if you're a tourist coming in, we want you to kind of get a feel for, the reason we all live here, which is that we have a great community of wonderful people here who are friendly and welcoming, and that really shines up front in our tap room.
Like, have you noticed? You mentioned like trivia. Have you noticed like certain events work better?
The big thing I've like post COVID is that kind of yeah. I have noticed that there's been a subtle change where customers are looking for a value added experience. They're no longer just coming out to have a beer, or they're coming out less frequently just to have a beer. They're coming out because there is something else happening. There's a gathering. There's a nonprofit fundraiser. We have music. We have trivia. We have a new artist who's hanging art on the wall. We have a small private event space in the back that we rent out for small group gatherings, whether it be a nonprofit or hosting a meet and greet for a local political candidate. So, I joke that sometimes I feel more like an event planner these days than I feel like a brewer. The beer is still a very important part. And the reason we exist is that we have good, creative beer that I'm very grateful that our local community has really embraced. But what I've seen more is that people are looking for that feeling of extra value, that they're getting more than just a beer. They're coming out to have a broader experience than just to have a beer with a friend.
Talking to different brewery owners like yourself, it seems like everybody's doing trivia or bingo nights or whatever. And just, one brewery mentioned that they have like once a month or so, it's like a choir night. And they actually have like 50 to 70 people that show up and pack it every, time they do this for like choir. I'm like, wow, that seems pretty cool. Hey, if it works, it works.
Totally. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who is just like, anything to get butts in seats and get people to walk in through the door is kind of the name of the game right now.
How is the brewery itself and the tap room changed since 2020?
I mean, the most visible change for us is that over COVID, and I call it the only silver lining we had from COVID, was that we got approval from the city to have sidewalk seating. We have a nice broad sidewalk out front, and it was something I had kind of worked with the city as we were opening, but there were some roadblocks. And then over that first month of COVID, I was in constant contact with the city, and I was like, listen, I need to have outdoor seating. I'm going to go out of business if I can't responsibly sit people where they're going to feel comfortable to sit and have a beer. So we worked with them. The city was great to work with then. And we have a great, we have 8 or 9 tables out front that in the summer months adds about more than a third of our adds a third of seating capacity for us from our inside. So that's the most obvious change that we've had. Another change from an operational standpoint was pre-COVID. We do a little bit of distribution of our beer. Like I said, we are a really small brewery. We've self-distributed forever, and we used to go to the tourist towns of Durango and Telluride, which are both about an hour 15 away. And we were in a couple restaurants and in some tap rooms and in some liquor stores over there, and that was really stretching us thin. As far from a production standpoint, I'm the only person on production, and COVID kind of hit, and we kind of reassessed like, well, what is giving us what we want out of this business? And we just weren't seeing a whole lot of gain out of doing all this effort for self-distribution without having a whole lot of either financial dividend on that or really attracting so much business, since the places we were initially doing this as a way to get our name out there. But it's not like they're 20 minutes away. These towns are an hour plus away if the weather's good. And so we kind of retracted back in. It allowed me to focus more on producing a real variety of beer, and being creative with my beer again, as opposed to just churning out 2 or 3 beers all the time and having the rest of the tap list suffer a little bit from a creative aspect. And so we still self-distribute a little bit, or I should say I self-distribute. Most of my distribution is me walking with a dolly with a keg of beer down to a couple restaurants that are down on Main Street. But really pulling back on the distribution, trying to focus in again on our local community really brought us back to our core mission statement of wanting to build our community. And distribution at even at that small scale just really wasn't all that beneficial for a brewery of our size.
In your town in Cortez, how has like drinking habits changed? Like, many people became couch drinkers. So have you noticed more people buying cans, 4-packs, 6-packs, or do you think like the traffic is back to the tap room that it was before?
We're flirting with where we were like at end of 2019.
Okay.
And I would say that that's just kind of been the case in the last, year and a half, maybe 2 years. I will say our age demographic has skewed way older than it used to be. A lot of people are, and once again, you're seeing this nationwide, the under 35 crowd is not drinking like when I was under 35, my generation. And so, yeah, our taproom clientele have skewed a little bit older since COVID. We are seeing quite a few cans still go out the door. We invested in a small Wild Goose canning line over COVID, which it still gets a lot of use. We're putting out a lot of beer in cans, but people are still coming in for the experience. Going into COVID, I remember telling this to my wife. I was just like, once this is all over, we're going to need places like tap rooms. And so, what we're going through right now is something, or what we were going through, that was going to put a lot of tap rooms out of business. But after the isolation of COVID, our tap room has really kind of been a space where people have been able to reconnect with community, which I'm just, I'm thrilled about. I love it. It's one of the best parts of my job is seeing community form. But tourism is weird. We're a big tourist town. Every year is a little bit different. No year has been consistent since COVID, really. We're still here, and we're still making great beer and building great community around that beer.
Is there anything from that period, 2020, 21, that you kept because it actually made the brewery better?
Getting rid of distribution far and wide, it made our tap list a lot more interesting, a lot more diverse. It allowed me to experiment a lot more. It gave me more time to be able to interact with our customers, interact with the bartenders here, to be able to really, tell the story that I want to tell with all of these beers. And we've just, you had to be scrappy over COVID, and that mentality has kind of carried on through. I mean, I don't have nearly as big of a staff as I did pre-COVID. We've kind of honed what we do to be able to be done by fewer people, and I'm blessed with great staff right now that are able to execute on everything that needs to be done. But I would say just being able to refocus on the craft and our local community has been kind of the most shining example of something that we have carried through post-COVID.
That's what I've heard from, a lot of different people that I've talked to. So, that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, we've also just tried to diversify what we do. We added a small private event space back in what was just my warehouse and cellar area, which we book out, 6 to 12 times a month to boards and birthday parties and gatherings and all this. We have added a coffee shop in the mornings up front that utilizes the tap room, and we've had that in place for going on 3 years now. Like I said, anything to maximize the value of what we have and the space that we have at our disposal. Anything to get people through the door, to appeal to as many people as possible. So, music, trivia, private event space, coffee space, cater. We do catering out of our kitchen now every once in a while. Pretty much, anything that we can do to generate some revenue for the business, we're doing. And in a small town, you need to be able to appeal to as many people as humanly possible.
Oh yeah, like the name is Brewing Collective. It doesn't matter where it's brewing beer, brewing coffee, we're brewing something.
Right.
Something during the day.
Progression.
Yeah,
exactly. I joke. We have all your drugs. We got your uppers and your downers.
Yeah. Where do you see Wild Edge in, say, the next 5 years or so?
In business. I hope that we can. I don't have any grand plans of trying to grow as of right now. I really like what we do, and I hope that we can continue to just entrench ourselves into this community. Hopefully, be a way for this community to continue to grow and diversify, and be a reason that people want to come to our community, either for a visit or maybe be a reason where they decide that they want to relocate and live here because there's a great brewery in town. and I enjoy collaborating with a lot of different people around here, whether it be nonprofits or my staff right now. I'm in a phase of like we're trying everything and seeing where that takes us, and you never know what opportunity is going to present itself. So I don't really have a strong vision of grand changes for Wild Edge. I really like what we do. I really like how we do it, and I hope that we can continue to do that while preventing ourselves from becoming stagnant, but continue to innovate, to both have customer experience, continue to improve experience of our community, continue to improve, and be able to continually, improve the experience of all the people that work here with me. So that hopefully they stay on for a long time and we can have that continuity to be able to be continue to be a strong force here in Southwest Colorado.
Awesome. Well, let me get you out of here with a simple one. What's your shift beer at the end of the day? Like, now you just finished canning. What are you going to crack open when you're done talking to me?
I'm probably going to go this afternoon for our 9th anniversary IPA. 5%, very refreshing. I'll still be able to go do a couple deliveries on my way home, but it'll be a nice end to the day here for me.
Perfect. Well, Tucker, I appreciate so much. Best of luck over at
Thank
Wild Edge. I know, talking to our mutual friend Emily, she was like, well, when you come out this way, you need to drive down to Cortez. I'm like, all right, I'm there.
Yep. Come visit us. We'll show you a good time. We'll throw back a couple pints together.
Sounds good. I appreciate it so much, Tucker. Take care of yourself. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks. You too, Dave. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Some good stuff there on that
Yeah.
one. So always like when you hear the word scrappy. So
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed, like when he was mentioning that, like their taproom age seems to be older now than it was back then. So the people that are coming in are, a little bit older than it used to be. And, people were saying that, Gen X was, or not Gen X, Gen Z were, the big drinkers a few years ago, but now they're settling down having kids. So maybe they're not coming out as much. So the average taproom age is, getting older. So that was one of the things that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that was something to notice on there too. Gen Z is older than the millennials, right? Millennials are younger than Gen Z, or
I think millennials are older
than Gen Z. Okay,
yeah,
just trying to keep them all in line. No, but he also hit on again the same thing that we hear a lot of the times. You have to give a reason for people to come to your brewery.
Yeah.
So you got to make it whatever that attraction. I mean, you're fighting for the destination dollar now. So what makes you stand out more than somewhere else? Why should I come to your place?
And you wonder, like, I don't know how it is by you. I haven't seen it as much around here, but remember 10, 15 years ago, a lot of places had like mug clubs where it was a minimal fee for a year, maybe $20, but you would get they'd give you a special mug club glass. So you'd get a couple extra ounces on your beers. You'd get a free beer for your birthday. Every 9 growlers you bought, you got a free growler, something like that. All right, you're going to get the $20 up front, but then these people are going to be coming back. I don't know if that's something breweries need to look into. Like, we've talked before, not many people are doing growlers anymore, but maybe there's something as an extra bonus that you could give to people to sign up and they keep coming back to your brewery. Like, maybe give them a mug club only 4-pack that you can't buy, something that would entice people to keep coming into your establishment.
Right. Cheers, Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
There you go.
I have not gone there yet. Big Daddy reached out, so I know where there's some Schlitz left. I'm going to have to take a run over there this weekend.
Cheers, Ryan. Good looking sticker on the beer fridge. You might see a little beard ass up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is I'm trying to the wall here. So good people that should be followed out there telling their stories on beer,
Yeah.
right? So yeah. But no, it was definitely a lot of good highlights. And again, it's just kind of funny when you hear it back from the people, the breweries and the BA stuff that we've been talking about. Like, hey, we're not blowing smoke, folks. This is what is actually happening out there. Bringing it to you first word from the actual folks dealing with it is a great thing. So appreciate the time there. And then the next interview we have for the trifecta is actually a person I wanted to get on for a few years ago. That's going to be Jeremiah from Hop Butcher, which is definitely a fan favorite brewery out there, I know, for a lot of people. So we'll have his upcoming here in a second. And then I think I'm going to crack up another beer. You cracking up another beer?
I'm still good right now, so
Okay.
I'm trying to time it like during the interview because I know we're off camera. I can go run and crack one open.
I'm going to probably crack open one of the Southern Tier Irish coffee that I have here.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything you want to say about Jeremiah before we see him up here?
Really good. It was great to talk to him. First time I've ever, spoken to him. I'm sure I've seen him around before, but this was our first time. Really cool, great guy. I talked to one of the people that I know in their like little store where you could, buy stuff to go. And I've known her for well over 10 years. She used to 10 bar at this bar I used to go to back in the day. And then it was like a year or so ago. I'm like, wait, I know you. So it was great, catching up with her. And I asked her, I said, I do the media stuff. Who would I get in contact? She was like, oh, get a hold of like Jeremiah. He's really good. Gave me his email address. So, I emailed him and, right away he replied, no, I'd definitely love to, and then we worked out, appropriate time. So, this was all within like the last week and got all this done. So really cool. Thank you to, everybody that's come on. It was all within the last couple of weeks and we made it all happen. Rod, you froze again.
Okay. Hopefully my internet's not screwing up on my channel, but I keep getting some stuff in and out here.
Looks like you're doing the robot. Yeah,
it's weird. I don't know what's taking place today with the internet on my stuff, but it hasn't done anything else really but the computer here.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, hopefully it all comes through here. But yeah, we'll go ahead and tee Jeremiah up here and hear what he had to say as well.
All right, welcome back. Hop Butcher for the World is phenomenal. They're right in my neighborhood, a walking distance away, 4257 North Lincoln Avenue, in the most recent craft beer and brewing year-round magazine. They're rated the #2 small regional brewery. They're also one of the top IPA brewers in the country. Talking today from Hop Butcher is Jeremiah Zimmer. Jeremiah, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Dave. And thank you for all the kind words. That's a heck of a lead-in. I got to come up with a way to to live up to that intro.
Well, your beers definitely live up to that. For people that somehow still haven't had a Hop Butcher beer, what's the quick origin story? How you got here?
Yeah, right on. Well, it's been about just over 10 years now, so it's hard to keep that entire story succinct and brief. But it started from a love of hoppy beers, and it just so happened to coincide with the beginning of what a lot of us call the haze craze. And we had dabbled and found very quickly that the hazy IPA, hazy double IPA, hazy triple IPA was a really great canvas for hop expression, both aromas and flavors. So, we had limited capacity in the beginning and a list that outdid that capacity by miles and miles. So when we found our stride, we were able to kind of put capacity and batches of beer wherever we could. And, self-distributing, we were able to get them out really, really fast, which allowed us to focus on not just fresh beer, but like hyper fresh beer. So canning, beers Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, delivering them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday has been our shtick for a long, long time. And as most people know, hoppy beers benefit from freshness. So a lot of times those beers don't even see the inside of a cooler. They get loaded onto trucks and they leave the brewery with haste, if you will. And, you know, largely rotational. We do have a couple beers that we try to keep around more often than not, but for the most part, everything we do comes and goes. So we might do 2 beers, you know, 1 week, 3 beers the next. 1 might be a lager, 2 might be hazies. But it very much like if you see it, buy it, because you may not see it again. So.
Yeah, before you opened up the Lincoln Avenue location, I remember going down the street to Bottles and Cans, and I think it was Thursday that the drop was there, and
Yep.
there would always be clowns like me at 4 in the afternoon.
You guys aren't clowns. You're the best.
Yeah.
You're the absolute best. You know what was funny about that is that people unfamiliar with us and how we handle our releases. You know, the way I like to explain it is that while we don't make the same beers, you know, week in and week out, we have established what I like to consider like an avenue of trust with beer drinkers, that if you like hazy double IPA and you like one of them, you're probably going to like all, if not most, or most, if not all of them. So our fans have, instead of looking for a specific beer, have learned to know or learn or find out when our deliveries are happening at whatever the go-to store is. Like you mentioned, Bottles and Cans, you knew on Thursdays that that's when they got their Hop Butcher drop, and that's when you would show up. And that I think is special and really, really cool, and something that we don't take for granted, even, you know, 10 years plus into the beer game.
Yeah, even, you're 2 blocks away from there. Still, there's always, plenty of Hop Butcher products right there. So it's always good. I'm always thinking like, I could just walk 2 more blocks and just pick it up right there. But sometimes it's nice, if you don't have it, I could go to Bottles and Cans and grab something if I missed it from the week before.
Yeah, absolutely. Those types of retailers, Bottles and Cans, beer temples, beer sellers, have been supporting us for over 10 years. So we don't play. Of course, we love it when you come directly to us, but we also very much the same love it when you go to any of our accounts and buy from them, because they've been great partners for a long, long time.
How do you think you managed to ride the wave of the haze craze better than the majority of brewers out there?
I'd say dedication of capacity to getting it right and constantly making it better. We pushed the envelope early on, but we kept pushing and pushing. We didn't just dedicate, 1 or 2 tanks to making hazies and getting them right and making them the best beers we possibly could. We dedicated literally all of them, sometimes to a fault, and sometimes Jude, the other founder, and I would talk about what we wanted to put in tanks with our brewers, and I'd be like, we got to make something else, guys. We got to make some stouts. We got to make some Hefas, some lagers. And we're like, nope, hoppy beer, hoppy beer, hoppy beer, hoppy beer. And we just kind of committed to that. And like I said before, like eventually we felt like we found our stride, but we never got comfortable, and we still aren't. Like, we are still testing things, testing different combinations, changing this grain for that grain. We're, changing this dry hop pounds per barrel for that, and constantly tinkering. And I also think that there's a little bit of intuitiveness that needs to go into growth and batch sizes by style or by hop combination. So, we might feel most comfortable doing, this beer in a 90 barrel tank and that beer in a 30 barrel tank, or, hey, we'll try it in a 15 first. And then if it's great, we'll scale it up to a 90. And that, that helped us prevent, flooding the market with something that we weren't entirely certain of yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I think it's necessity, because we don't have a bigger or a smaller tank. Other times we have actually put a whole lot of thought into details like that, just to make sure that we're not just doing whatever's good for Hop Butcher and maximizing capacity, but we're also doing what's best for our accounts and the amount of beers and the amount of beer of each of those beers that they have. So we keep close tabs on that as well, just to make sure that we're growing, we're doing, you know, what we can, but we're not just, you know, round peg, square hole, or whatever that saying is, where we're like, this is what we do. We're not changing it, take it, and we'll move on. So that extra touch, I think, has carried us a long way.
Yeah. Well, you went through COVID as a brewery that at first you didn't rely on the traditional tap room model. Do you think that helped you survive the shift?
Unintentionally, yes. You know, we did actually get a lot of requests for interviews because we were doing well during COVID, but you know, we didn't see a worldwide pandemic coming. We were just trying to make as the best beer we could and as much beer as we possibly could during COVID, given that we didn't have a tap room. So in that sense, you know, to answer your question, I think it was more luck of circumstance than anything, because we were largely in packaged goods stores, and that's what people were buying and taking home and drinking on Tuesdays because they got to work from home in their pajamas, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have more than a few on-premise accounts where we just didn't keg beer back then, and we do now. We fill kegs to order for out of state and in Chicagoland. So, you know, and we obviously have a tap room now, so it would be a lot more painful if, say, COVID the second hit us tomorrow. But yeah, you know, 6 years ago during COVID, it was, you know, 100% of our beer went into cans. We dropped those cans off at stores and see you next week.
Yes.
You know, and people could go to those stores and do the curbside pickups or whatever and drink them at home and jump on a Zoom and talk about it, check in on Tapped. And, you know, we definitely did have a couple weeks where, you know, there were some hesitation, you know, where right in the beginning where it was like, should we like maybe skip a batch? And then when we kind of saw that response of what people were doing at home during the week, during the day, it quickly turned into can't make enough beer, keep going.
Yeah.
Just mask up and, you know, buy as much hand sanitizer as you possibly can.
Well, a lot of people started, you know, drinking at home more and they never fully came back out. Are you still seeing that in, you know, your sales mix today?
I would confidently tell and share, you know, with your listeners that, you know, 2021 was a great year, you know, to sell beer, but nothing was going to beat 2020, you know, or like if you look at 2022, how do you comp against 2020 and 2021? Impossible, right? Like people were buying all the beer and drinking it at home. But I will also say that not lucky for us, but also well thought out here that, like, you know, that was at the onset of when we purchased Half Acre's original location, and the former Five Rabbit location in Bedford Park is our production facility. And that in doing that allowed us to not only make more beer, but more beers. And this is to maybe tie back to your question about that I answered kind of about like being intuitive about batch size, right? And watching what the market is buying and where, and moving things around and maybe paying more attention than normal. All of a sudden we had more tanks, right? We were already using a lot of this capacity, but all of a sudden we had more tanks and of a variety of sizes. So when I say more beers, you know, it gave us the opportunity to do 3, 4, 5, 6 beers a week if we wanted, instead of 1 or 2. But it also gave us the ability to layer on top of that to say, well, you know, beers 3, 4, 5, 6 aren't going to be the same batch size as 1 and 2. 1 and 2 might be the big ones. And then it trails off into smaller batches and other styles that, you know, maybe we don't need 700 cases of a wheat beer like we need 700 cases of a hazy double IPA.
Yeah.
So, you know, so to answer your question, we make more beer and more beers than we ever have before, and we have the luxury of not having yet to have taken a step back. But I think it's kind of more of that same answer, you know, where we purchased those places, but it gave us the opportunity to maybe return to our roots a little bit and focus that experimental smaller batch stuff into the smaller tanks and keep doing what we're known for above and beyond, in the larger tanks. And also, it's not just in market, it's out of state. It's growing our out of state footprint, which feeds into, beer fests in Boston and collabs with Dogfish Head and, going out to Weldworks in Colorado. Like, it opens a lot of doors for us to go do things with other breweries and other beer festivals and other beer podcasts, which is how we sort of kind of met and know each other. That it's just a network of people who, as long as we take care of Chicago and no one's unhappy here, we can use that capacity to grow ourselves in other states that also love craft beer, but up to and throughout the last 10 years have heard of Hop Butcher from us reaching out and having brewery friends and doing stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun for us to say, make more beer, make more beers, put them in more places, but also focus on growing the Chicago market, but then be able to go to a beer fest and say, you mentioned Craft Beer and Brewing. They do their Craft Beer and Brewing Festival in Minneapolis every year. And we can go there, and when people come up and they try our beer and they're loving on it, or they're like, hey, I really love this, can I buy it around here? To be able to say yes.
Yes.
And a lot of times what we'll do at those beer festivals is we'll work with those distributors that we work with to do that, to get us a list of accounts that buy our beer on the regular, so that we can not only say, yeah, you can get it here, but do any of these places, pop our phone up and be like, do any of these places look familiar or close to you? So it's a lot of things, not to overcomplicate the answer, but it all works, and it's all pretty well thought out in terms of where we're going, what we're doing with all of that beer that we can.
Another side effect from 2020 are the costs that are going up, costs across the board between ingredients, labor, aluminum, everything. What's been the hardest thing for you to manage behind the scenes?
Keeping prices where we want them. And maybe that's a Captain Obvious answer. Maybe it's not. But we held prices at the same rate for 8 years, I believe it was. We didn't raise anything. Other than one beer tier where we were pumping a ton of fruit into it, and we created a tier, but we didn't raise our prices on beer styles or ABV, any of that sort of thing for 8 years. And, we instead worked to work with our suppliers to, not put the screws to them to just give us what we needed for cheaper, but to come up with a more economical price for us, given that we continued to use more and more and more of their supplies. We were ordering hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of supplies in a year. Most notably probably what we spend on hops, right? Yeah. So the more hops you buy, the better price you get per pound, the more you commit to. So going back to those suppliers, whether it was cardboard or cans or hops or yeast, and working with them to try to get that down and keep that as reasonable as possible as other prices were rising, helps a lot. Now, a lot of that did get eroded over the last few years, whether it was tariffs or just increases or inflation. But, constantly keeping an eye on those things is important for any business, but especially, breweries that have to work with so many different products, suppliers, et cetera, just to take a beer from idea to, in a can on a shelf. So we did eventually raise one tier of ours. We needed to differentiate the amount of what we used in certain styles, but we still held our prices to where they were for previous levels for the majority of our beer styles and ABVs. So that is something that is something I do actually enjoy hanging our hat on, because we feel better, at a certain price point to the consumer on a 4-pack on the shelf. Yeah. Some people don't mind charging $25 for a 4-pack. We very much feel like, a hazy IPA or double IPA should be more around the 15, 16, 17 range if we can at all help it. And so far we can. Yeah. So, the hope obviously is that it doesn't continue to get worse, and that we can continue to hold and focus instead on putting more beer in more people's hands rather than having to charge more for the beer that we do make.
a lot of breweries are leaning harder into experience events, the community, taproom vibes. How does that fit into the strategy of Hop Butcher now?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, you know, to say that good beer, you know, does all the work, I would say is a fallacy. You know, like you got to make good beer, you got to make great beer, but you got to do all those things. I before beer, my background was in marketing and experiential pieces, so that's actually a piece that I enjoy. You know, have a little like passion projects, smart partnerships, if you will. To help blur the line between casual consumers and beer fans and some of the things we do. So experiences that you might think of like brewery tours, or you mentioned Biker Dude earlier, like where we're bringing in food pop-ups, food trucks, you know, that's part of the experience. We have a kitchen in that facility, but we don't yet use it. I hope sometime, you know, soon that we do, and we're able to express ourselves through food as well. But in the meantime, we've been partnering with pop-ups and food trucks to bring the food element and see what that does to our business, but also see what people respond to the most. You know, the knee-jerk reaction for Hop Butcher would be street food. Chicago street food, like we put it on our cans. We name our beer characters after hot dogs and slices of pizza. And that's the food we enjoy eating as well, almost to the point where like usually I'll go out and I'll describe Hop Butcher as Chicago street beer, right? Like to match the street food. But you know, the experience can be a lot of things. It can be like I said, it can be a tour. It can be a swing by the tap room. It can be a chat like this where someone maybe hears what we're talking about and likes what we're saying, and then next time they see Hop Butcher in their market, they pick it up. A lot of the things that I'm working on, if I'm not working on, you know, running the business, or and there are lots of things that, you know, we still need to do as owners to run the business, but you know, finding the right out-of-state partnerships for distribution. But I'd say that the good majority of what I enjoy working on and what I spend my time on are those smart partnerships. It's reaching out to you know, musicians, to chefs, to Billy Corgan and his wife Chloe up at the tea shop in Highland Park, which ended up in us doing 4 beers with them. To, you know, Garrett Brands that owns Frango Mints, and we did the Frango Mint, you know, Imperial Chocolate Stout for the last 4 or 5 years. You know, Wendella Boats, we do a boat, or we do a beer for them called The Boats, and this is the 3rd year that we've done that boat beer for them. So it is about finding ways to sell more beer, but more than that, you know, 90% of that is having fun doing what we're doing and bringing people along for the ride, which in and of itself, in my opinion, is the experience. How cool is it, whether you're from Chicago or outside of Chicago, to come to Chicago, get on a boat for an architecture tour, and then be able to try one of the smallest, you know, hoppy, hazy producers that Chicago has on the boat, you know, and you can hear those folks talk about how fun that project is for us to do every year too. You could have gone last year to a Smashing Pumpkins lyric opera show and had a beer that we brewed specifically for that show, as well as another one that we didn't, but that was inspired by the Pumpkins Tonight video. So we're constantly working on projects like that with restaurants and sports teams and, like I said, chefs, and just sometimes it's crazy and sometimes it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But what it does mean is it means fresh, delicious beer and doing something fun that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Go to the Salt Shed. You can buy Hop Butcher, right? Like you go see a show. You go to a White Sox game. You can find Hop Butcher. So doing those things takes time, for sure. You know, you gotta introduce people to the brand. You gotta introduce them to the beer. You gotta find the right people, which is half the battle. And it doesn't always work out. You know, we don't have our beer in Soldier Field yet. We don't have our beer at Wrigley yet. It's not for lack of trying. But you want to put your beer and do things with your beer that you find fun, that people around the brewery who make the beer find and deliver the beer find fun, but also people that happen upon it, whether they're buying tickets or they're cracking the beer can open for somebody at work.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the biker dude, on Sunday. So we're recording this on Thursday, the 30th. Just a couple days ago, I popped in there for the biker dude burgers. And one of the things that I noticed was there were a lot more families there for this event than I would typically see, at the, going inside the tap room, which I thought was cool. Some people, they're the anti-kids and, breweries. I don't care. As long as somebody's there having a good time, I'm cool with it. So I thought that was really interesting to see something like this. I think you were handing out like coloring books too. So the families that were there, maybe somebody might not have gone to Hop Butcher before, but they saw this and now they're like, oh, we had a great time. We had a good food. We had a good burger. Let's stop over here now. And we're at the Jewel across the street. We'll just run over and grab something and sit and have a pint.
Our tap room is very, very kid friendly. Our staff, there are some kids in there for sure, but just between Jude and I, we got 7 kids. He's got 4, I got 3. When we opened the place, we made sure that, both bathrooms had a changing table. We make sure we have coloring pages, crayons, juice boxes, sodas, waters, you name it, non-alcoholic beers, hop waters that are non-alcoholic.
Your hop waters are really good too.
Thank you. That has been a passion project for me for the last few years, and we continue to push the flavor boundaries there as well. So I don't want to bury that lead, but I love kids in breweries as long as they're behaving or being supervised by their parents. It's not let the kid go play with some valves and tanks and he get burned. It's just keep them close, keep them entertained, and there's no reason they can't be there too. So a lot of the things we do, whether it's food related or otherwise, we have the kids are absolutely welcome. Every now and then we'll play around with artwork that Dan gives us, and I'll run it through the Crayola app, which turns it into a coloring page. And then those are the coloring where they can like color Tom Skilling's face from that beer, or they can color Deeper Dish or Tavern Cut artwork, like those characters, which is always fun to see. And then we'll tape that up on the wall in the store and let kids display their art. So
gonna start selling it like the Sweet Home poster that I have here. Yeah.
We could do that for charity. Maybe we start selling coloring pages.
There we go. Well, Hop Butcher, you've always been primarily known as an IPA brewery, but your stout, everything that I've had from you has been good. I don't consider you a hazy brewery. The stouts that you have, the Lincoln Anniversary Stout that comes out every year, the Pilsners, what is it, the Butcher Gold, I believe, that's solid. Everything is good. Do you ever see a road where it's more of a balance, or do you envision Hop Butcher to be primarily an IPA, a hazy IPA brewery?
I think we'll always have a hoppy lean to us. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. It's in our name. But what I was getting at before with the varying sizes of capacity that we have at our disposal, give us the ability to kind of stretch those wings, if you will. And, shout out to our brewing and cellaring and packaging team for just being the absolute best, right? Like you listed off a lot of styles there, from hazies to West Coasts to lagers to light lagers to imperial stouts to barrel-aged blends. Maybe not in that order you listed them, but like that's a wide reach, and I think it's a lot. Like when a brewer is good, they're good. They're not just good at one thing. But our team is even better than that somehow. They really are. Like they continue to blow us away with the quality of beers coming out of both buildings in a way that sometimes you don't know until after the beer's brewed and packaged and distributed how amazing it actually is. And you find yourself wishing the batch was bigger, I think that, given the out-of-state pull too, though, like we've opened the doors to other states, we distribute beer there, and they see less of that range, right? Because the range that we're talking about, lagers and stouts and barrel aging is is lesser in comparison volume wise to our hoppy stuff. And so that doesn't make it as far out as our as our hoppy beers do. So naturally when we get requests from out-of-state distributors, they're like, give me your hoppy stuff, give me your hazy double IPAs. So I hope that never goes backwards. I hope we're always able to maintain the hoppy lean that we love. But as long as our brewers, our Hop Butcher brewers, are happy and brewing things that challenge them, that push boundaries that customers can taste, and they continue on the same path that they have been on, which blows my darn mind day in and day out. Another shout out to them. I think that we will always resemble a little bit who we are right now moving forward, which feels good, right? It feels like we're being true to ourselves. We are being true to our earliest fans that said, okay, I can get on board with this, but we're also pushing boundaries, and we're not just turning our crew into shift brewers, right? We're still making things that excite them, and we're still staying on the cutting edge of new hop technologies, experimental hops, to the point where we've developed friendships with hop farmers, right? And if they have a small, tiny lot of something they're excited about and they let us know about it, we'll put it in a beer. And that allows people to taste that way earlier than they may have otherwise if you didn't have someone who was so passionate about hoppy beers. So I know that's maybe a long-winded answer to a simple question. But yeah, I do think we'll stay in that hoppy lean that we have. But I do think that, or I don't want to understate the importance of other styles that push our boundaries, that maybe, don't require a huge and widely distributed batch, but that we'll still do it because we're excited about it and it's different.
Yeah, we were talking before we were recording, when I stopped over Sunday, I picked up Ale Max. Now it's a hoppy beer. It's a West Coast style Pilsner that is fantastic. One thing I wanted to mention, like the artwork is totally different. Like at first when I was in the cooler, I'm like, wait, what's this? This isn't the usual art.
Beer?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, but I saw the logo, but no, this is outstanding as well.
Thank you. Yeah, like Dan Jetza is one of the best decisions we've ever made. One of the coolest people I've ever met in decades. He does everything that we do as Hop Butcher, with the caveat that sometimes we'll do ultra small runs that, the consistent branding is important. And the fun thing about Ale Max is that it is a celebration of the anniversary of the Air Max shoe, right? Nike Air Max. And he does, the organizer of this Ale Max project, does events with breweries, some of which are really good friends of ours, of Hop Butchers, around the country. And they all use that look. I don't know if you mind holding it up again, but they all use that look with different color combinations and different, text and fonts and stuff, but it's all consistent. And so for an ultra small run of that sort, as long as we're showing that, we're involved with the project where the logo is on, those cans do have a limited reach and come and go, and they are meant for an event. We're okay doing that. We don't say yes to everything like that, but we keep Dan busy still. Despite the Ale Max project, we keep him busy with prints and can artwork and one-off requests for custom glassware. So we appreciate Dan for what he brings to the table. But the instances of not using Dan on a Hop Butcher beer are very few and far between.
Well, let me get you out of here with a quick softball one. At the end of your day, what's the shift beer you're having?
Oh man.
And that changes because your product rotates so much. So
yeah.
But what's your usual shift beer?
Yeah, right on. So we've done it twice now. We have well, let me talk in generalities. Is that a word? For as many triple IPAs and double IPAs as we do, I can't drink a ton of those. Otherwise I wouldn't get anything done in a day. So I do find myself gravitating towards some of our lower ABV offerings. Grid is one of them. We keep Grid around a lot, most of the year. It's a clear American pale ale that we hop with Citron Mosaic. It commonly described in half-acre terms as our daisy cutter, if you will. But there's a beer that we've done twice now, and we just released it last week, called Euchre Music, which is an even lower ABV than Grid. It's a 4.5% extra pale ale. And I love the character that Dan did and the spirit behind the beer, or of like playing euchre or cards, you know, in a garage with friends and having music on and just drinking beers together. And so that's my beer answer, you know, my fridge or my shift beer. But I will also, to bring this full circle, because you brought this up, our hop waters really are phenomenal. As a non-alcoholic offering, because we haven't done a non-alcoholic Hop Butcher beer except in collaboration with Go Brewing. The hop waters are our NA offering, and that is, I'll put a 4-pack of hop water down over dinner. Like it quenches your thirst, it clears your palate, it can make you feel sometimes like you are drinking a beer. And I find it to be a really cool go-to, not only when you can't or shouldn't drink more beer, but also in between beers when you are drinking beers, you know, where you have one or two and then you have a hop water and then you go back to having another one or two if you're tying one on. But the flavors, man, they just work so well. You know, we build that regular or the original hop water first, the blue can, where it's just basically sparkling water with hop essence, aromas, and flavors. And when we do flavors, we still build that same foundation, then we layer the flavors on top of them. And I don't know, you know, it's one of those things like we were talking about, you know, praising the brewers before, but how in the world are these beers getting better? Or how in the world is this hoppy Pilsner just as good as the, you know, the hazy double IPA? And it translates to the hop waters too, where most people are like, you got a Zima hat on. Yeah. Most people are like, yeah, I remember Zima and Two Dog, and you know, and it's like, yeah, I don't really need hop waters. And then they try it and they're like, wow, this is really good. I think those offerings from us lean more like a bubbly or a LaCroix.
Yeah.
You know, where you almost wish that we could put them on the grocery shelves next to those things instead of next to the beers, because the people who want to drink that, you know, they may touch beer or not, but they're thinking in that mindset when they're running down that aisle, not the beer aisle. So, yeah, you know, especially this time of year as the weather starts to get nicer in Chicago, I do reach for Euchre Music or Grid or Butcher Gold on the lighter side. I'll layer in a hazy IPA, you know, in between there. But, you know, if I'm just by myself or eating dinner or, you know, spending time with my kids, I'll usually crack a can of hop water open.
Water. Well, Jeremiah, I appreciate so much taking time out of your day today. Best of luck. Actually, I'll probably pop over there later today because my wife and I are going to Bad Apple across the street for dinner. So I'm assuming I'll walk right across the street and maybe pick up some of that Euchre Music for myself. But
please do. It's a solid fridge beer. No lie.
All right. Well, definitely. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. We'll see you at the brewery.
Sounds good.
Some good stuff there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah. Great having Jeremiah on there. And again, appreciate Brewer Association, Wild Edge, Hop Butcher, all kind of coming on board and stories and kind of things they've seen and where they were and where they are now, and kind of provided some extra insight.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we both love Hop Butcher, talked about them numerous times, but like, I can honestly say I've never had a bad Hop Butcher. Everything they do is good. They're Pilsners. They're, you know, sometimes they come out with a lager. They have a West Coast now and then.
Yeah.
Everything is like phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it was, is it a Digital Frontier, their triple IPA? Was one of my, I know it's something Frontier. I really enjoyed that one when I had it years ago. Big Daddy had just cracked open a Fat Bear even.
Nice.
Them, so, was Big Daddy one he sent me a couple years ago was the Fat Bear. So, So that's pretty nice there. Yeah, Ryan, I think you met Jeremiah. I don't know if Justin with Hop Butcher. It was probably Jeremiah or Jew, like he said, his partner. But yeah, it's cool. They're doing a couple with Wanderer Monsters down here in Cincinnati. And one thing that's about Hop Butcher, they were kind of almost a little bit ahead of the game in some of how they did some of their marketing and stuff, just because they were one of the early ones, I would say, of some of the more smaller to mid-sized craft breweries that really started getting involved with a lot of the YouTubers and influencers, like basically sending their beer out. Like years ago, I was getting some of their beer. I know some of the people were getting beer like Nerd Sense and then FLX and the Beer Patrol. And the thing is, they were getting them to people that didn't necessarily have them yet in their states.
Yeah.
So they were building a buzz ahead of time. When I was getting Hop Butcher, it wasn't here yet in Ohio. Now it is. So they kind of built out that awareness through things.
Well, like I remember, like on your old live streams, you know, I'm sitting there like, how the hell are you getting that? I'm 2 blocks away. I don't get that shit.
Right, but in a way, it tells a story to set their footprint for when they actually do come to the area.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Justin's one of the brewers there. Okay. So
Okay.
they're going to have one of the brewers on for Cincy Brew Dads, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
But yeah,
awesome.
they're here in Ohio now. So, you know, you're able to get them at various places that I've seen on the shelves, maybe in Kentucky as well. But their expansion has been good. They made mention of collaborating with other breweries from around and distribution to get their stuff in other states. And again, it's getting out there ahead of the curve. They remind me of kind of a smaller Rheingeist, because Rheingeist here in Cincinnati was pigeonholed as kind of that IPA brewery for the longest time. But then they were doing other things, other stouts and barrel-aged stouts and just different types of beer. And you're like, wait a second, they can do more than just IPA. And that's how
they're
they
not like a one-trick pony. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you mentioned with them, like their stout game at Hop Butcher was really good. Their Mexican lager is really good. Some of the other things they actually have. So it's kind of like, yeah, hoppy and IPA is maybe getting people in the door, but they have so much else to offer that you're really surprised when you go there, just the different things you can actually taste and, you know, enjoy. So shout out to them. But yeah, a lot of things since 2020, as we kind of heard through the different interviews there, people have to find out where they actually want to be at, where they want to get their foot in, right? You had on your piece as well, craft brew industry was thriving in 2010s, hit a tougher phase since COVID. Craft beer volume declined 4% in 2024 and about 5% in 2025.
Yeah.
Overall beer production in the U.S. also slipped slightly, which, you know, we're kind of aware of that. And more breweries are closing than open in the recent years, which brings me to a point here. Shout out to MadTree. MadTree is about to open their 4th location here in
good for them.
Ohio as well. So they've got like 4 spots. So as we're seeing some places cutting back or maybe closing, I think there was I saw a video earlier. I was going to shoot over to you, but I can't remember who it was for what brewery, but I think another brewery in Chicago is closing now. So as we're seeing some of these breweries close, there's other ones that are getting their opportunities and growing, right? So MadTree now 4 spots, which is pretty cool. Let me see. Pat Wilson and Greg, Big Dice.
Okay.
We see here COVID accelerated trends in brewing, market saturation, rising costs, increased competition from other beverages, and legalized marijuana in states, right? So there's some headwinds that came along with COVID for a lot of breweries there. The legalized marijuana was definitely something I think took a bite out of things, especially the rise of the THC drinks that have,
like weed was legalized
so
here in Illinois in 2020.
Competition. Right, that wasn't there before. And that stuff also affected the spirits and, you know, wine drinkers, because I think one of the growing areas last I saw in THC, one of the fastest growing were, I want to say women like 55 to like 70 or something, whatever that age group is in there, which were more wine drinkers in the past, but they've actually found a spot with the THC drinks they've actually enjoyed. So all these industries being affected.
Shit,
by
my
some of the
mom
things
asked
out
me if
there.
I could hook her up. I'm like, well, it's legal. You could go to a dispensary, Mom. You don't need me. Oh, I don't know if I could go in there. I'm like, Mom, it's legal. You could walk into a dispensary.
Because the mom,
Yeah.
you can get your own drugs.
Yeah.
I will say here, the dispensary in Ohio, you do see age ranges from the younger to the older for sure. So all kinds of people going in there, all kinds of, from the working man to the professional man to the executive, whatever. I mean, everybody's kind of going in there to get stuff. Which the only sad thing is here, like the THC drinks, the dispensaries, a lot of them don't want to carry them because it's not as profitable for them. So they're kind of right now kind of in limbo, but people go in there and get their edibles or they get the actual weed or whatever. So, yeah. So we're seeing a lot of that. You also had, with the more options of the RDDs, the hard seltzers, the malt beverages, the THC drinks I mentioned, and you said like the spirits gain a share.
Yeah, even like you get stuff like those beat boxes or those buzz balls. I mean, I had a beat box once. I didn't like it, but they're popular. Those and the buzz balls. So those are a different. They're not malt based. I know, like the buzz balls, I think are a wine based beverage, but that's also taking part of the share. Like me, when I go to the Jewel, there's right next to like your stovepipe cans, you have the beat boxes, the buzz balls. They're right there competing with your craft beer or your, even your macro beers that come in those big 25-ounce cans.
Right, yeah. And Ryan hit on the THC drinks also take up the space at the dispensaries. Yeah, space is also something in there as well too. But also, if you're selling them cold, you got to have the cooler, the walk-in coolers or whatever that kind of store stuff, right?
Or the big fridge.
Right. So all of that kind of comes into play there, and that's why some of the dispensaries are kind of laid off of them, I think. You hit on this. We in the interviews talking to the folks, where breweries that are surviving and thriving are focusing on community-driven tap rooms, event and experience, just beer, smaller, more local, more intentional engagement. Yeah, you got to meet the people where they are, like we always say. You got to create this experience for people that want to go. The children in the brewery, that's going to be something I think that'll be every couple months. We'll keep seeing pieces pop up about that. There was one video I saw where I don't know if it was like something. I don't know if it was actual video or they were making fun of the video, but it was like the video was about a woman. The woman was asking another woman if they could like not say the expletives they were saying because they had kids at their thing, and they were just like, all these comments are like mind your business. Then why'd you bring the kids to the brewery? Like, so it's kind of like all these things that are kind of out there too. Like if you bring your kids in a brewery, make sure they could be in a possible surrounding that you may not feel suitable for them, but you can't have other people change their thing because you want to be there either, right? So that's something that has to be a give and take there too. Yeah,
if I'm around and there's liquor, there's probably going to be some words the young kids might not want to hear.
I said I wasn't in the Navy, but you might have thought I was. And like you said, COVID didn't just pause the beer world; it reset it. Yeah. People drink less often, but more intentionally. Health and moderation, reshaping choices. Craft beer moved from explosive growth to a more competitive, mature phase. Non-alcoholic beer and alternate beverages reshaping the category. So definitely a lot about going on. It's not about chasing the next hype release, like we talked about earlier. May not be going to many of the festivals you used to go to, right? You're not really chasing those anymore. You're not really lining up like you used to line up back in the day to get Zombie Dust or whatever when they hit the shelf. So it's just different things in a different world, and the breweries that are going to make it are the ones that are going to be able to adapt, I believe.
Can I talk about Zombie Dust for a minute?
Yeah, fire away.
I mean, they're not that far from me. They're in Munster, Indiana. And 10, 15 years ago, you would go to Three Floyds and they would have a sign on the door, no zombie dust. I'm like, you brew it here. What do you mean you don't have zombie dust? You brew it in the back. No zombie dust. Now you could get a case of zombie dust at Costco, $30, $7.50 a six pack, $30 out the door. I'm like, times have changed.
Yeah, I would even say some places you might even get it under cost because Zombie Dust is one of those beers that kind of sits on shelves now for some places.
And it's an awesome beer. It's
Yeah.
still a great beer. 15 years later, it's a great beer.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You have beers that are really good, but I've still got like Bourbon County being sold at our Kroger from the batch that came out they came out on Black Friday, right? And it's still bottles on the counter at the Kroger bar and stuff where people can still pick up stuff. And in some places you go, I mean, I know you said Jewel didn't do it this year, but there are places that you go to now and they may have it. And it's like half off or 25% off, or they're discounting to try to move it. Both of us have done stuff here with Firestone Walker. And I said before, I went to New Jersey one time, and the brown box beers, which are usually $13 to $15, a place in New Jersey was selling them for $6 to get them moved. And I'm like, well, I'll help you out. I'll take all 5 of the ones that are left there. So it's interesting because the beer world has changed in that kind of way that you're able to now, what people are not doing as much as they used to is kind of like breweries that were used to say, we have to put out a certain number. Now they have to put out less because they're not selling all the ones they're putting out.
Yeah.
Big Daddy says he's at Old Irvin every Sunday for lunch. Awesome food.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll see you there sometime, Dave.
Yeah, I was there.
You guys should definitely connect.
Well, I'm usually off Sundays, so definitely we'll have to set up a time. But yeah, I was just there Wednesday. Their fries are phenomenal. I mean, all their food is great. The beer is great. The food is great. Their fries are really good. So I had some of the fries and met someone on LinkedIn. We had a conversation. But yeah, OIB is killer.
Solid. Some craft beers just fall under those respect your elders and know your roots categories. Got to know where you came from. Yeah. So, I was talking this past weekend. I had to travel for work, and I was talking to one of the guys from up in New Hampshire, and he was asking, my thoughts because he knew I had finally had Heady Topper, and I was like, Heady Topper still solid, still good, but honestly, for the first time having it now, it doesn't stand out. There's so many other ones that are out there now. Now, if you had Heady Topper in 1995 or whatever, 2000, it would have been top of the thing because you didn't have as many people out there doing it. But now with the market, it's like still a great beer, definitely a 4.25, 4.5 maybe, but you're not going to see a drop off from what other breweries are possibly putting out in other people's communities. They're like, I don't have to get Heady Topper. I can get this over here. I can get this at Rhine Guys. I can get the Mantry or Fretboard. Or if you're in Chicago, you got Old Irvin, you got Dovetail, you got Hop Butcher, you got all these other things where you don't have to worry about getting the Alchemist now, right? And they're all putting out great stuff. So time catches up with everything. Nobody beats Father Time.
And, the bar has raised where what would be considered a great beer 15 years ago now is like mediocre. Even 20 years ago, 25 years ago, some of the early craft beers that we were drinking, you would never touch today. No one's touching a Sam Adams Boston Lager. As much as I love the beer, it's not
one of
your first
ones.
grab.
Yeah.
It's not your first grab anymore. So people's palates change. I mean, the skill of brewers is phenomenal. Well, I mean, every brewery is putting out. It's not just they're putting out decent beers. They're putting out good to great beers pretty much every place.
Yeah. Every which way you turn, you're getting good stuff coming your way for the most part. So it makes it tougher. That's where I think some of the consumers sometimes get that glass eye look when they're in the beer store. There's so many good beers to try to choose from.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you're trying to remember what your friend told you may want to try or whatever, or something you may have seen on one of the shows or whatever, or somewhere else you heard. So it's like the opportunity out there to have a good beer and actually draw people in is so much greater now. So it's kind of like you don't have to go digging out for the other stuff. So yeah. But no, it was great to hear, like I said, their perspective on that. So it's been a few weeks since we had also talked, like I said earlier. Didn't really put down any beer news items, but anything that you have out your way. If I can find out what brewery I know that was closing, I'll shoot that over to you in case you want to.
Yeah, I saw that one. It was.
Oh, you did? Okay.
They weren't a big player. You know, okay. You don't want to see anybody. Yeah. You don't want to see any business go under, but you know, unfortunately, that's part of the game in 2026. You know, it's going to happen. You feel bad for the workers, for the people there. I mean, the owners that put up a ton of money initially, but yeah, you know what happens. You know, hope everybody lands on their feet.
Yeah, I think the big news though has to be right, like Firestone and Duvel.
Yeah,
taking in Stone now, and wonder what we're going to see from the opportunity they're going to actually do with them, how they're going to actually market it out. Because I guess Duvel owns Firestone, maybe. And then Firestone over Stone, so it's kind of like I don't know if Firestone and Stone are going to be like brother sister type companies, or if Firestone is going to be over Stone. But
I thought the way I interpreted it, and I could be wrong, is that no, Stone's calling Firestone daddy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I read it, and I could be, maybe I read it wrong, but
yeah,
like, you know, Duvel they're the owners. Right, so, you know, in Firestone, I mean, they do things the right way. It sounds like they're not going to, you know, change things. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But Stone is an iconic, you know, brewery. One, you know, they're probably on one of the Mount Rushmores of craft beer for what they did with hoppy beers and Enjoy By and all of that. So, you know, you hope it continues.
Yeah, you're hoping you'll see, because the thing with them taking in Stone will be interesting because Stone had a bigger foothold distribution than what Firestone was doing, right? So yeah. Firestone was just in, I think, 8 other states outside California versus Stone that was everywhere. So I'm wondering if that may also open up some of the distribution for Firestone through some of those old Stone type agreements, or how much they're going to collab with Stone and Firestone together and how that's all going to work out. It'll be interesting. It'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. And then, you know, it was mentioned on here as well. I don't know if Matt mentioned it. I think Matt did much want to mention it, where he was in Philly for the CBC conference. So a lot of good awards and beers. I would definitely say check that out if you haven't seen it. You can definitely go to CBC's website, or the BA's website, rather, Brew Association, or you can go to Craft Beer
World Beer Cup, all that.
Right, World Beer Cup, all of that, and see who the winners and stuff were in the area. But a lot of great stuff. Ohio, can't remember the medal count. I think it might have been around 13 or 14 this year that we won through this state. I think last year was more, but a lot of great beers, a lot of great representation, a lot of great styles. Always a great time, as I mentioned earlier.
I mean, you were mentioning. I mean, the one thing I noticed, and I talked about it on my show last week, was like the international flavor. There were a ton of gold medals won by China, Japan. Yeah. I think Lithuania took home a silver. There were so many countries that were there, and it's just like, oh, wow, I wish I could try this beer now. But there were so many international breweries that took home gold. So it was cool to see that.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing to be there. When I was at the one in Indianapolis, one of the winners that won, they were from Japan, and it was just like, it was great. It was one of those things, like sometimes when you watch like some of these Oscars or Emmy type things, when someone wins that didn't expect it, right? And it's just a humbling experience. That's how they were when they won their award there. Like, and they set one of the women up to get the award, and she was just so flustered and just so excited. And just, you know, something they could bring back, and like, it's like a thing where we actually made it, right? And then you have these international breweries like, you know, Garrett had done the Fonio stout up at Brooklyn, but there were brewers that came over that did Fonio and stuff as well. You got a chance to actually try different samples of different things they were doing and the different stuff taking place from overseas. It is really an international experience, and it's just awesome. And then talking to some of the guys, you know, you got to go through the accent a little bit, but the guys that are here from Germany and the guys from Poland and all these different areas, and just having some great conversations about just the world of beer, because you're talking about from all around the world with these folks. It's a great experience. It's one of those things. So next year I will look to be back on the docket wherever it's going to be at. And thanks for those of the people I met that reached out, wishing I was there and everything like that too. So we'll definitely catch up here soon as well. But I think that was kind of some of the beer news stuff that I kind of saw that really took place. A lot of the breweries were preparing for that, so they weren't saying much other stuff outside of the Firestone deal that I saw.
Yeah.
But it said, like I said, Mad Tree, they sent me a thing in their press release. So in today's thing, with the way things we're hearing, to open up another fourth location, you know, one thing about Mad Tree, they plan their stuff well. They really do. Look to project out to see, and they just hired their first CEO and COO, I believe, over there. So congratulations to them as well. They're doing some pretty good stuff. So I need to get back over there and get some more of their beers. I do have their Axis Monday review that I'll be bringing up here on the channel. I shot that last week when I was over in Hocking Hills. So finally share that video, and I share some other ones. I got a bunch of stuff coming up. I got one of the Firestone Walker ones coming up from the Brewmasters Collective this week. It's going to be their barley wine, which I will probably have an unboxing coming up this week as well, because I'm supposed to receive the second quarter box, I think, on Monday. So stay tuned for that coming up this week, and I'll share what they have in the second quarter for the Brewmasters Collective. What do you got going on your channel there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to do Best Day, so non-alcoholic brewery, national company. You can pick them up all over Target, everything. They're actually kind enough to give a discount code. So if you use the code in front, all one word, save yourself some money if you want to order some stuff online. I've had like 4 or 5 of their NA beers. They're good. Like, you know, I'm having right now Electro Lime. This is like a Mexican lager with some lime in it. It's really good. So if you're looking for something just to have on its own, you know, I think Jeremiah was talking, or Hop Butcher. Sometimes you want like an NA or a hop water in between beers. This would go well with that. Good beer. Not just NA beer, it's good beer. So that's going to be coming out probably late tomorrow night, first thing Monday morning. A couple other interviews I have in the can. So it's always good to talk about beer.
There you go. Always good to talk about beer. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get a bunch of reviews out this week off the backlog I have, and I've got some things that finally have settled down. So stay tuned for that with the channel as well. And then I want to start dropping some other beer education type stuff out there as well, and some other topics. So stay tuned. But I think that's what we got for tonight.
I think that's a wrap for tonight.
That is a wrap. But thanks for everybody tuned in. Hopefully the technical difficulties didn't come through too bad on my side. I don't know what's going on. I'm about to reset my router when we're done here tonight. But
that AOL dial-up you got over there.
Yeah. Still trying to dial back into the old AOL. Yeah. But that being said, we'll sign off here. Look to catch up with you guys in a couple of weeks. And hopefully you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Yeah. Hopefully you're warmer than I am, because right now, today, we are...
it's a little chill. We got a frost warning here.
44 right now as I'm sitting here in the hoodie. And it's like, talk to the wife, like, we're not going back to turning the heat on. We're just going to go right through it. So,
and if anybody had that Kentucky Derby trifecta, send some money our way.
Yeah. The Derby did kick off tonight there. Yeah. So I did see the one horse come from behind and get the win earlier. So, and I just saw in the NBA, the 76ers beat the Celtics. I did not expect them to come back and win that series. So, yeah. Sorry, Boston, you're out.
Yeah. 2 nights in a row.
What I've learned by watching Charles Barkley, whoever thinks he's going to win, we're on the other team.
Going to Cancun.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We will get out of here. Cheers to you as well, Ryan, and we'll catch up with you guys soon.
My big baby, tuning in. It's been a ride. Roger and Daisy, we here with pride. Midwest Beer Talk as we glide. Catch us again, don't let this vibe slide. Like and subscribe, it's the key. Roger Beverages, join our spree. Big in front, we got the flow. Catch us live, the times grow.
The siege of the blessing, God is so